Here's a heart model again. We're going to be taking a look at the coronary circulation, or at least the circulation that supplies the heart muscle itself of blood. And we really only get it from two arteries that are the first two branches off the aorta. If you take a look here, this is the aortic semilunar valve and this is the ascending aorta. First two branches, the right and the left coronary arteries. As you put this one back, as you can imagine, the right and left coronary arteries continue their kind of extension onto the myocardium. Here's the right, kind of goes a little long ways before it branches, while the left is here before it splits quite shortly into the other two. The right is very simple, just goes into what we call the marginal, and if I kind of flipped it, it becomes the posterior interventricular branch. You can see this one coming across, and that's the posterior interventricular branch. While the left one becomes the anterior interventricular branch and the circumflex. We name these when they continue to branch, and I know there's many other ones and different names for some of these, like the anterior interventricular branch is also known as the left anterior descending, or LAD. And people use acronyms all the time for this, but you can imagine if some people use this to remember, they say people that like to drive with RPMs are right with a posterior interventricular branch and the marginal, RPM, and law-abiding citizens, the LACs. The left gives off the anterior interventricular and the circumflex. If you know the arteries, the veins become very, very simple. All three of the veins that we need to describe are considered the cardiac veins, and we have the great, middle, and small. And so when we have the small, travels along with the marginal branch, kind of comes along with the right. So that's the marginal branch here. The posterior interventricular travels with the middle, so this would be considered the middle cardiac vein. And then the great cardiac vein travels with essentially the extent of the anterior interventricular and the circumflex. So this is all the great cardiac vein as you kind of spin around. All three of them will dump themselves into the very, very large coronary sinus. As you can see, it's quite large here. So a quick review as we take a look at this. Right and left coronary arteries, which extend from the right, gives off the marginal branch and the posterior interventricular branch. The left gives the anterior interventricular branch and the circumflex branch. The veins, marginal runs with small cardiac vein, posterior interventricular branch travels with the middle cardiac vein here, and then the great cardiac vein travels along with the anterior interventricular and the circumflex. All of them join together into the coronary sinus.